Hi guys, Canadian Hunter here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an update video to my Savage 93R17 video. So I made that video last night and I talked about maybe putting a scope on this gun and I did. I did switch to the Bushnell scope. I did that late last night and switched it over. And the other thing that I did is I modified the trigger. Because I thought that I just didn't like it. I thought it was heavier than it should be. I know Savage claims with their AccuTrigger on the lightest setting. I can't remember exactly what they say, but they say somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 pounds. But you know, and it just felt heavy and it felt a little bit gritty. I didn't really like it, so I did modify it, and I've done a few of these in the past with the AccuTrigger. I'm going to put a disclaimer in and say that modify a trigger at your own risk. I don't take any responsibility for what you do to your gun, but I will tell you what I did. And in short, I shortened the spring is really what I did. So very easy to do. So you know, once you undo the two bolts and take the action out of the stock, all there is on the left side there's a little E clip that you pop off. There's a little post that slides out. There's like a little V-shaped spring that comes off. Don't worry, that goes back on super easy. And effectively the trigger and the spring just pops right out. And really it's a trial and error a little bit. So, you know, snip off a couple coils, put it back in, you know, test it. Ideally to do this you absolutely need a tool to test the trigger pull. I guess you could do it by feel, but realistically you kind of want to know where you're at. And the other tip I'll give you, and it's really nice with the AccuTrigger, is because you can screw in or unscrew that spring, it gives you a little bit of leeway. It gives you room to move. So especially if you want to have, for me this is a half bench gun, a half hunting gun. And obviously on the bench, I mean, I would rather have a lighter trigger, and maybe for hunting, you know, I might screw the screw in a little bit to put a little bit more tension on that spring, just to weigh down the trigger a little bit. But that's it. So basically what I did, like I say, I trimmed the spring and kept putting it back in, and I settled at, actually where it fell was below a pound, just below a pound. I think I was around 12 or 14 ounces on the pole, and it was just a little bit too light. And what you'll notice on the Savage is that what I'm doing is shortening that spring. And when you're shortening that spring, if you can imagine, that trigger effectively is the spring is putting pressure, pushing down on the trigger, and when you're shortening it, you're relieving all of that tension. And where the little sear drops, you're giving yourself very little room for error on that. So when you go a little bit too short, even if you go too short, what you'll notice is that either the initial sort of AccuTrigger will lock up, because as soon as you close it, it's a two-step in that sear, and it's already dropped to the first step, and it won't work. So, but don't worry if that happens, because that happened to me. Because a very fine line between getting it set perfect and just a little bit too much cut off. So because you could just screw it back in. So what I did, like say, I fell around 12 ounces to 14 ounces, a little bit too light. And I think in the end, I basically went in like maybe half a turn, and that was enough to get me back up to 1.5 pounds, and that was also enough to make it safe again. So just to give you an idea where this is at, this trigger, you know, just a little bit of pressure, and that's it. And that's exactly 1.5 pounds. And you know, don't worry guys, I'm not, I've got a spent cartridge in here for a snap cap, because you know, being rimfire, very little pressure. And I have to admit, a part of me really liked it at about 12 or 14 ounces, but it was so light, and like I say, it's not reliable. I found that out of maybe 10 pulls or 10 drops of the bolt, 2 out of 10, it had already clicked to that first stage in that sear, and effectively it won't go off. So and I guess in a way that makes it, you know, that's the first stage of its sort of built-in safety, right? And you know, with this set, I kind of banged the stock. I mean, it won't go off at 1.5 pounds, so I think it's set perfect. I absolutely just love a 1.5 pound trigger. That's it. So that's sort of my status update. So again, I did put the Bushnell stock on here. I think it looks fantastic. You know, dropped the trigger to 1.5 pounds. I didn't mention it in the video yesterday, but I have to admit that was my only other gripe with this gun. And that's a really picky gripe. I mean, you know, some people really don't care about the trigger. I really anal about my triggers. I mean, they got to be absolutely beautiful. And I'd rather have a super light trigger and just know it's light, and just work with that, because it's just, you know, once you get used to shooting a trigger that's around 1.5 to 2 pounds, maybe 2.5 pounds, you'll never go back to 3 and 4 pound triggers. So that's it. That's my update. So what do you guys think? I mean, how does that look? I mean, effectively now I bought a gun for $399, and I put a scope on here that I paid $300 for. And I have to admit, I did actually lap these rings a little bit. They were really dirty, actually. Once I popped them off, whatever Savage did to dip this gun, I mean, the inside of these rings were just full of this material. So I did lap those rings as well. So they're a lot nicer. But that's it. If you guys like this video, please click like, and as always, please click subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel, and I'm going to keep bringing you guys more videos. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.